Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So we're going to read a really cool book. It's by Stephen King and it is called Cycle of the Werewolf. In the stinking darkness under the barn, he raises his shaggy head. His yellow, stupid eyes gleamed. "I hunger," he whispered. 30 days hath September, April, June, and November. All the rest but the second have 31. Rain and snow and jolly sun, and the moon grows fat in every one. January. Somewhere high above, the moon shines down, fat and full. But here in Tarker Mills, a January blizzard has choked the sky with snow. The wind rams full force down a deserted centre avenue. The orange town ploughs have given up long since. Arnie Westrom, flagman on the G5 and WM railroad, has been caught in the small tool and signal shack 9 miles out of town, with his small gasoline-powered rail rider blocked by drifts. He's waiting out the storm there, playing last man out solitaire with a pack of greasy bicycle cards. Outside, the wind rises to a shrill scream. Westrom raises his head uneasily, then looks back down at his game again. It is only the wind, after all. But the wind doesn't scratch at doors, and whine to be let in. He gets up. A tall, lanky man in a wool jacket and a railroad overalls. A Camel cigarette jutting from one corner of his mouth. His seamed New England face lit in the soft orange tones by the kerosene lantern which hangs on the wall. The scratching comes again. Someone's dog, he thinks, lost and wanting to be let in. That's all it is. But still, he pauses. It would be inhuman to leave it out there in the cold, he thinks. Not that it is much warmer in here, in spite of the battery-powered heater. He can see the cold cloud of his breath, but still he hesitates. A cold finger of fear is probing just below his heart. This has been a bad season in Tarker Mills. There have been omens of evil on the land. Arnie has his father's Welsh blood strong in his veins, and he doesn't like the feel of things. Before he can decide what to do about his visitor, the low-pitched whining rises to a snarl. There is a thud as something incredibly heavy hits the door, draws back, hits again. The door trembles in its frame, and a puff of snow billows in from the top. Arnie Westrom stares around, looking for something to shore it up with. But before he can do more than at least reach for his flimsy chair he's been sitting in, the snarling thing strikes the door again with incredible force, splintering it from top to bottom. It holds for a moment longer, bowed in on a vertical line, and lodged in it, kicking and lunging, its snout wrinkled back in a snarl, its yellow eyes blazing. It's the biggest wolf Arnie has ever seen, and its snarls sound terribly like human words. The door splinters, groans, gives. In a moment the thing will be inside. In the corner, amongst a welter of tools, a pick leans against the wall. Arnie lunges for it and seizes it as the wolf thrusts its way inside and crouches, its yellow eyes gleaming at the cornered man. Its ears are flattened back, furry triangles. Its tongue lolls. Behind it, snow gusts in through the door that has been shattered down the centre. It springs with a snarl, and Arnie Westrom swings with a pick. Once. Outside, the feeble lamplight shines raggedly on the snow through the splintered door. The wind whoops and howls. The screams begin. Something inhuman has come to Tarker Mills, as unseen as a full moon riding the night sky high above. It is a werewolf, and there is no more reason for its coming now than there would be for the arrival of cancer, or even a psychotic with murder on his mind, or a killer tornado. Its time is now, its place is here, in this little Maine town where baked bean church suppers are a weekly event, where small boys and girls still bring apples to their teachers, where the nature outings of the Senior Citizens Club are religiously reported in the weekly paper. Next week, there will be news of a darker variety. Outside, its tracks begin to fill up with snow. And a shriek of wind seems savage with pleasure. There is nothing of God or light in that heartless soul. It is all black winter and dark ice. The cycle of the werewolf has begun. Then we'll move on to February. Love. Stella Randolph thinks, lying in a narrow virgin's bed, and through her window streams the cold blue light of the St. Valentine's Day full moon. Oh, love, love, love. Love would be like. This year, Stella Randolph, who runs the Tarker Mills Set and Sew, has received 20 Valentines, one from Paul Newman, one from Robert Redford, one from John Travolta, even one from Ace Frehley of the rock group Kiss. They stand open on the bureau across the room from her, illuminated in the moon's cold blue light. She sent them all to herself. This year, as every year, love would be like a kiss at dawn, or the last kiss, the real one, at the end of the Harlequin romance stories. Love would be like roses in twilight. They laugh at her in Tarker Mills, yes, you bet. Small boys joke and snigger at her from behind their hands. And sometimes, if they are safe across the street and Constable Neary isn't around, they will chant "Fatty Fatty 2x4" in their sweet, high-mocking sopranos. But she knows about love and about the moon. Her store is failing by inches, and she weighs too much. But now, on this night of dreams, with the moon a bitter blue flood through the frost-traced windows, it seems to her that love is still a possibility. Love in the scent of summer, as he comes. Love will be like the rough feel of a man's cheek, that rub and scratch. And suddenly there is scratching at the window. She starts upon her elbows, the coverlet falling away from her ample bosom. The moonlight has been blocked out by a dark shape, amorphous but clearly masculine, and she thinks, I am dreaming, and in my dreams I will let him come. In my dreams I will let myself come. They use the word dirty, but the word is clean, and the word is right. Love would be like coming. She rises, convinced that this is just a dream, because, well, there is a man crouched out there. A man who knows. A man who passes on the street nearly every day. It is love. Love is coming, and love has come. But as her pudgy fingers fall on the cold sash of the window, she sees it's not a man at all. It is an animal out there, a huge shaggy wolf, his forepaws on the outer sill, his rear legs buried up to the haunches in the snowdrift, which crouches against the west side of her house, here on the outskirts of town. But it's Valentine's Day, and there will be love, she thinks. Love eyes have deceived her, even in a dream. Is it a man? That man. And he is so wickedly handsome. Wickedness, yes. Love would be like wickedness. And he has come this moon-decked night, and he will take her, he will. She throws the window up, and it is a blast of cold air, billowing her filmy blue nightgown out behind, that tells her that this is no dream. The man is gone, and with a sensation like swooning, she realizes he was never there. She takes a shuddering, groping step back, and the wolf leaps smoothly into her room and shakes itself, spraying a dreamy sugar puff of snow in the darkness. But love is like a scream. Too late, she remembers Arnie Wellstrom, torn apart in the railroad shack to the west of town only a month before. Too late. The wolf pads towards her, yellow eyes gleaming with cool lust. Stella Randolph backs slowly toward her narrow virgin's bed until the back of her pudgy knees strike the frame and she collapses upon it. Moonlight parts the beast's shaggy fur in a silvery streak. On the bureau, the Valentine cards shiver minutely in that breeze. From the open window, one of them falls and seesaws lazily to the floor, cutting the air in a big silent arc. The wolf puts its paw upon a bed, one on either side of her, and she can smell its breath. Hot, but somehow not unpleasant. Its yellow eyes stare into her. "Lover," she whispers, and closes her eyes. It falls upon her. Love is dying. March. The last real blizzard of the year. Heavy, wet snow, turning to sleet as dusk comes on and the night closes in, has brought branches tumbling down all over Tarker Mills, with the heavy gunshot cracks of rotted wood. Mother Nature's pruning her dead wood. Milt Sternfellow, the town librarian, tells his wife over coffee. He is a thin man with a narrow head and pale blue eyes, and he has kept his pretty, silent wife in a bondage of terror for 12 years now. There are a few who suspect the truth. Constable near his wife Joan is one, but the town can be a dark place, and no one knows for sure but them. The town keeps its secrets. Milt likes his phrase so well that he says it again. Yep, Mother Nature is pruning her dead wood. And then the lights go out, and Donnelly Stonefellow utters a gasping little scream. She also spills her coffee. "You clean that up," her husband says coldly. "You clean that up right now." "Yes, honey, okay." In the dark, she fumbles for a dish towel with which to clean up the spilled coffee, and barks her shin on a footstool. She cries out. In the dark, her husband laughs heartily. He finds his wife's pain more amusing than anything, except maybe the jokes they have in the Reader's Digest. The jokes, humour in uniform, life in these United States, really tickle his funny bone. As well as dead wood, Mother Nature has pruned a few power lines out by Tark Brook this wild March night. The sleet has coated the big lines, growing heavier and heavier, until they have parted and fallen on the road like a nest of snakes lazily turning and spitting blue fire. All of Tarker Mills goes dark. As if finally satisfied, the storm begins to slack off, and not long before midnight the temperature has plummeted from 33 degrees to 16. Slush freezes solid in weird sculptures. Old Man Haig's Haigfield, known locally as 40-acre field, takes on a cracked, glazed look. The houses remain dark, oil furnaces tick and cool. No linesman is yet able to get up the skating rink radios or roads. The clouds pull apart. A full moon slips in and out between the remnants. The ice-coated Main Street glows like dead bone. In the night, something begins to howl. Later, no one will be able to say where the sound comes from. It was everywhere and nowhere, as the full moon painted the darkened houses of the village. Everywhere and nowhere, as the March wind began to rise and moan like a dead berserker winding his horn. It drifted on the wind, lonely and savage. Donnelly hears it, as her unpleasant husband sleeps, the sleep of the just beside her. Constable Neary hears it, as he stands at the bedroom window of his Laurel Street apartment in his long handles. Ollie Parker, the fat and intellectual grammar school principal, hears it in his own bedroom. Others hear it as well. One of them is a boy in a wheelchair. No one sees it. And no one knows the name of the drifter the linesman found the next morning when he finally got out by Tark Brook to repair the downed cables. The drifter was coated with ice, head caught back in a silent scream, ragged old coat and shirt beneath chewed up. The drifter sat in a frozen pool of his own blood, staring at the down lines, his hands still held up in a warding off gesture, with ice between the fingers. And all around him, a paw prints, wolf prints. April. By the middle of the month, the last of the snow flurries have turned to showers of rain, and something amazing is happening in Tarker Mills. It is starting to green up. The ice in Matty Tellingham's cow pond has gone out, and the patches of snow in the tract of forest called the Big Woods have all begun to shrink. It seems that the old and wonderful trick is going to happen again. Spring is going to come. The townsfolk celebrate, in small ways, in spite of the shadow that has fallen over the town. Grandma Haig bakes pies and sets them out on the kitchen windowsill to cool. On Sunday at the Grace Baptist Church, the Reverend Lester Lowe reads from the Song of Solomon and preaches a sermon titled The Spring of the Lord's Love. On a more peculiar note, Chris Wrightson, the biggest drunk in Tarker Mills, throws his great spring drunk and staggers off in the silvery, unreal light of the nearly full April moon. Billy Robertson, bartender and proprietor of the pub, Tarker Mills' only saloon, watches him go and mutters to the barmaid, "If that wolf takes someone tonight, I guess it'll be Chris." "Don't talk about it," the barmaid replies, shuddering. Her name is Elise Fournier. She's 24, and she attends the Grace Baptist and sings in the choir because she has a crush on Reverend Lowe. But she plans to leave Mills by summer, crush or no crush. This wolf business has begun to scare her. She's begun to think that the tips might be better in Portsmouth, and the only wolves there wore sailors' uniforms. Nights in Tarker Mills as the moon grows fat for the third time that year are uncomfortable times. The days are better. On the town common there is suddenly a sky full of kites each afternoon. Brady Kincaid, 11 years old, has gotten a vulture for his birthday and has lost all track of time in his pleasure of feeling the kite tug in his hands like a living thing, watching it dip and swoop through the sky above the bandstand. He has forgotten about going home for supper. He is unaware that the other kite flyers have left one by one, with their obvious box kites and tent kites and aluminium flyers tucked securely under their arms, unaware that he is alone. It is fading daylight and advancing blue shadows which finally make him realise he has lingered too long. That and the moon just rising over the woods at the edge of the park. For the first time it is warm weather moon, bloated and orange instead of cold white. But Brady doesn't notice this. He is only aware that he has stayed too long. His father's probably going to whoop him, and dark is coming. At school, he has laughed at his schoolmates' fanciful tales of the werewolf they say killed the drifter last month, Estella Randolph the month before, and Arnie Westrom the month before that. But he doesn't laugh now. As the moon turns April dusk in a bloody furnace glow, the stories seem all too real. He begins to wind twine onto his ball as fast as he can, dragging the vulture with its two bloodshot eyes out of the darkening sky. He brings it in too fast, and the breeze suddenly dies. As a result, the kite dives behind the bandstand. He starts toward it, winding up string as he goes, glancing nervously back over his shoulder. And suddenly, the string begins to twitch and move in his hands, sawing back and forth. It reminds him of the way a fishing pole feels when he's hooked a big one in Tarker Stream, above the mills. He looks at it, frowning, and the line goes slack. A shattering roar suddenly fills the night, and Brady Kincaid screams. He believes now. Yes, he believes now, all right. But it's too late, and his scream is lost under that snarling roar that rises in a sudden, chilling glissade to a howl. The wolf is running toward him, running on two legs, its shaggy pelt painted orange with moonfire, its eyes glaring green lamps, and in one paw, a paw with human fingers and claws where the nail should be, is Brady's vulture kite. It is fluttering madly. Brady turns to run, and dry arms suddenly encircle him. He can smell something like blood and cinnamon, and he is found the next day, propped against the war memorial, headless and disembowelled, the vulture kite in one stiffening hand. The kite flutters, as if trying for the sky, as the search party turn away, horrified and sick. It flutters because the breeze have already come up. It flutters as if it knows this will be a good day for kites. May we are on now. On the night before Homecoming Sunday at the Grace Baptist Church, Reverend Lester Lowe has a terrible dream from which he wakes, trembling, bathed in sweat, staring at the narrow windows of the parsonage. Through them, across the road, he can see his church. Moonlight falls through the parsonage bedroom window in still silver beams, and for one moment he fully expects to see the werewolf the old codgers have all been whispering about. Then he closes his eyes, begging for forgiveness for his superstitious lapse, finishing his prayer by whispering the "For Jesus' sake, Amen," so his mother taught him to end all his prayers. Ah, but the dream. In his dream it was tomorrow, and he had been preaching the homecoming sermon. The church is filled on homecoming Sunday. Only the eldest of the old codgers still call it Old Home Sunday now. And instead of looking out on pews, half or wholly empty, as he does most Sundays, every bench is full. In his dream he has been preaching with a fire and a force that he rarely attains in reality. He tends to drone, which may be one reason that Grace Baptist attendance has fallen off so dramatically in the last years or so. This morning his tongue seems to have been touched with the Pentecostal fire, and he realizes that he is preaching the greatest sermon of his life, and its subject is this: the beast walks among us. Over and over he hammers at the point, vaguely aware that his voice has grown roughly strong, that his words have attained an almost poetic rhythm. The beast, he tells them, is everywhere. The great Satan, he tells them, can be anywhere. At a high school dance, buying a deck of Marlboro at the big butane lighter down at Trading Post, standing in front of Brighton's Drug, eating a Slim Jim, and waiting for the 440 Greyhound from Bangor to pull in. The beast might be sitting next to you at the band concert, or having a piece of pie at the Tat and Shoe on Main Street. The beast, he tells them, his voice dropping to a whisper that throbs. And no eyes wonder. He has them in thrall. Watch for the beast, for he may smile, and say he is your neighbour. But, O my brethren, his teeth are sharp, and you may mark the uneasy way in which his eyes roll. He is the beast, and he is here now, in Tarker Mills. But here he breaks off, his eloquence gone, because something terrible is happening out there in his sunny church. His congregation are beginning to change, and he realizes with horror that they are turning into werewolves, all of them. All 300 of them. Victor Bowell, the head selectman, usually so white and fat and pudgy, his skin is turning brown, roughening, darkening with hair. Violet Mackenzie, who teaches piano, her narrow spinster's body is filling out, her thin nose flattening and splaying. The fat science teacher, Albert Freeman, seems to be growing fatter. His shiny blue suit is splitting. Clock springs of hair are bursting out, like the stuffing from an old sofa. His fat lips split back, like bladders to reveal teeth the size of piano keys. The beast, the Rev Lowe's, tries to say in his dreams. But the word fails him, and he stumbles back from the pulpit in horror as Cat Blodwin, the Grace Baptist head deacon, shambles down the centre aisle, snarling, money spilling from the silver collection plate, his head cocked to one side. Violet Mackenzie leaps on him, and they roll in the aisle together, biting and shrieking in voices which are almost human. And now the others join in, and the sound is like the zoo at feeding time. And this time the Rev Lowe screams it out. in a kind of ecstasy. The beast! The beast is everywhere! Everywhere! But his voice is no longer his voice. It has become an inarticulate snarling sound. And when he looks down, he sees the hands protruding from the sleeves of his good black suit coat have become snagged paws. He then awakes. Only a dream, he thinks, lying back down. Only a dream, thank God. But when he opens the church doors that morning, the morning of the homecoming Sunday, the morning after the full moon, it is no dream he sees. It is a gutter body of Clyde Corliss, who has done janitorial work for years. Hanging face down over the pulpit, his push broom leans close by. None of this is a dream. The Reverend Lowe only wishes it could be. He opens his mouth, hitches in a great gasping breath, and begins to scream. Spring has come back again, and this year, the beast hath come with it. June. On the shortest night of the year, Alfie Knopfler, who runs the Chattanooga Tarker Mills only calf, polishes his long formica counter to a gleaming brightness. The sleeves of his white shirt rolled to past his muscular, tattooed elbows. The cafe is for the moment completely empty, and he finishes with the counter. He pauses for a moment, looking out into the street, thinking that he lost his virginity on a fragrant early summer night like this one. The girl had been Arlene McCoon, who is now Arlene Bessie, and married to one of Bangor's most successful young lawyers. God, how she had moved that night on the back seat of his car, and how sweet the night had smelled. The door into summer swings open and lets in the bright tide of moonlight. He supposes the cafe is deserted, because the beast is supposed to walk when the moon is full. But Alfie is neither scared nor worried. Not scared because he weighs 220, and most of it is still good old navy muscle. Not worried because he knows the regulars will be in bright and early tomorrow morning for their eggs and their home fries and coffee. Maybe, he thinks, I'll close her up a little early tonight, shut off the coffee urn, button her up, get a six-pack down at the market basket, and take in the second picture of the drive-in June. June full moon. A good night for the drive-in and a few beers. A good night to remember the conquests of the past. He's turning toward the coffee maker when the door opens, and he turns back, resigned. Say, how you doing, he asks, because the customer is one of his regulars. Although he rarely sees a customer later than 10 in the morning, the customer nods, and the two of them pass their friendly words. Coffee? Alfie asks, as the customer slips into one of the padded red counter stools. Please. Well, still time to catch a second show, Alfie thinks, turning to the coffee maker. He don't look like he's a good foot long. Tired, sick maybe. Still plenty of time to. A shock wipes out the rest of his thought. Alfie gapes stupidly. The coffee maker is as spotless as everything else in the Chattanooga. The stainless steel cylinder, bright as a metal mirror, and its smoothly bulging convex surface he sees something unbelievable as it is hideous. His customer, someone he sees every day, someone everyone in Tarker Mills sees every day, is changing. The customer's face is somehow shifting, melting, thickening, broadening. The customer's cotton shirt is stretching, and suddenly the shirt seams begin to pull apart, and absurdly. All Alfie Knopfler can think of is that show his little nephew Ray used to like to watch, The Incredible Hulk. The customer's pleasant, unremarkable face is becoming something bestial. The customer's mild brown eyes have lightened, have become a terrible gold green. The customer screams, but the scream breaks apart, drops like an elevator through ridges of sound, and becomes a bellowing growl of rage. The thing, the beast, werewolf, whatever it is, gropes at the smooth formica and knocks over a sugar shaker. It grabs a thick glass cylinder as it rolls, spraying sugar, and heaves it at the wall where the specials are taped up, still bellowing. Alfie wheels around on his hip, knocks the coffee urn off the shelf. It hits the floor with a bang and sprays hot coffee everywhere, burning his ankles. He cries out in pain and fear. Yes, he is afraid now. His 220 pounds of good navy muscle are forgotten now. His nephew Ray is forgotten now. His backseat coupling with Arlene McCoon is forgotten now. And there is only the beast here, now like some horror monster in a drive-in movie. A horror monster that has come right out of the screen. It leaps atop of the counter with a terrible muscular ease. Its slacks in tatters, its shirt in rags. Alfie can hear keys and change jingling in its pockets. It leaps at Alfie and Alfie tries to dodge, but he trips over the coffee urn and goes sprawling on the red linoleum. There's another shattering roar, a flood of warm yellow breath, and then a great red pain as the creature's jaws sink into the deltoid muscle of his back and rip upward with terrifying force. Blood sprays the floor, the counter, the grill. Alfie staggers to his feet with a huge, ragged, spraying hole in his back. He's trying to scream. And white moonlight, summer moonlight, floods through the windows and dazzles his eyes. The beast leaps on him again. Moonlight. Moonlight's the last thing that Alfie sees. July we are on to. They cancelled the 4th of July. Marty Coleslaw gets remarkable little sympathy from the people closest to him when he tells them that. Perhaps it's because they simply just don't understand the depth of his pain. Don't be foolish, his mother tells him brusquely. She's often brusque with him. And when she has to rationalise this brushness in herself, she tells herself she will not spoil the boy just because he is handicapped, because he's going to spend his life sitting in a wheelchair. Wait until next year, his dad tells him, clapping him on the back. Twice as good. Twice as doodly damn good. You'll see, little bitty buddy. Hey, hey. Herman Coleslaw is the phys ed teacher at the Tarker Mills grammar school, and he almost always talks to his son in what Marty thinks of as Dad's big pal voice. He also says hey hey a great deal. The truth is, Marty makes Herman Coleslaw a little nervous. Herman lives in a world of violently active children, kids who run races, bash baseballs, swim rally sprints, and in the midst of directing all this, he would sometimes look up and see Marty, somewhere close by, sitting in his wheelchair watching. It made Herman nervous, and when he was nervous, he spoke in his bellowing big pal voice and said hey hey or doodly damn and called Marty his little bitty buddy. Aha! So you finally didn't get something you wanted, his big sister says, when he tries to tell her how he had looked forward to this night. How he looks forward to it every year. The flowers of light in the sky over the commons, the flash gun pops of brightness followed by the thudding kwamp sounds that roll back and forth between the low hills and surrounded the town. Kate is 13 to Marty's 10, and convinced that everyone loves Marty just because he can't walk. She's delighted that the fireworks have been cancelled. Even Grandfather Coleslaw, who would usually be counted on for sympathy, hadn't been impressed. Nobody's cancelling the 4th of July, boy, he said in a heavy accent. He was sitting on the veranda, and Marty buzzed out through the French doors in his battery-powered wheelchair to talk to him. Grandfather Coleslaw sat looking down the slope of the lawn toward the woods, a glass of schnapps in one hand. This had happened on July 2nd, 2 days ago. It's just the fireworks they cancel, and you know why. Marty did. The killer. That was why. In the papers now they were calling him the full moon killer. But Marty had heard plenty of whispers around school before classes had ended that summer. Lots of kids were saying the full moon killer wasn't a real man at all, but some sort of supernatural creature. Maybe even a werewolf. Marty didn't believe that. Werewolves were strictly for horror movies, but he supposed there could be some kind of crazy guy out there who only felt the urge to kill when the moon was full. The fireworks had been cancelled because of their dirty, rotten curfew. In January, sitting in his wheelchair by the French doors and looking out the veranda, watching the wind blow bitter veils of snow across the frozen crust, or standing by the front door, stiff as a statue in his locked leg braces, watching the other kids pull their sleds towards Wright's Hill, just thinking of the fireworks made a difference, thinking of the warm summer night, a cold Coke, fire roses blooming in the dark, and pinwheels and an American flag made of Roman candles. But now they've cancelled the fireworks, and no matter what anyone says, Marty feels that it really the fourth itself, yes, for that they have done to death. Only his Uncle Al, who blew into town late this morning to have the traditional salmon and fresh peas of the family, had understood. He had listened closely, standing on the veranda tiles, in his dripping bathing suit. The others were swimming and laughing in the Colesaw's new pool on Bill's side of the house after lunch. Marty finished and looked at Uncle Al anxiously. Do you see what I mean? Do you get it? It hasn't got anything to do with being crippled, like Katie says, or getting the fireworks all mixed up with America, like Grandpa thinks. It's just not right. When you look forward to something for so long, it's just not right for Victor Barr and some dumb town council to come along and take it away. Not when it's something you really need. Do you get it? There was a long, agonising pause while Uncle Al considered Marty's questions. Time enough for Marty to hear the kick rattle of the diving board at the deep end of the pool, followed by Dad's hearty bellow. Looking good, Kate. Hey, hey, looking real good. Then Uncle Al said quietly, Sure, I get it. And I've got something for you, I think. Maybe you can make your own fourth. My own fourth? What do you mean? Come out to my car, Marty. I've got something. Well, I'll show you. And he was striding away along the concrete path that circled the house before Marty could ask him what he meant. His wheelchair hummed along the path to the driveway, away from the sounds of the pool, the splashes, laughing screams, the diving board, away from the father's booming big pal voice. The sound of the wheelchair was a low, steady hum that Marty barely heard. All his life that sound had the clank of his braces, had been the music of his movement. Uncle Al's car was a low-slung Mercedes convertible. Marty knew his parents disapproved of it. $28,000 death trap, his mother had called it, with a brusque little sniff. But Marty loved it. Once Uncle Al had taken him for a ride on some of the back roads that crisscrossed Tarker Mills, and he had driven fast. 70, maybe 80. He wouldn't tell Marty how fast they were going. If you don't know, you won't be scared, he said. But Marty hadn't been scared at all. His belly had been sore the next day from laughing. Uncle Al took something out of the glove compartment of his car, and Marty rolled up and stopped. He put a bulky cell phone package on the boys with advice. Here you go, kid, he said. Happy 4th of July. The first thing Marty saw were exotic Chinese markings on the package labels. Then he saw what was inside, and his heart seemed to squeeze up in his chest. The cell phone package was full of fireworks. The ones that looked like pyramids or twizzlers, Uncle Al said. Marty, absolutely stunned with joy, moved his lips to speak, but nothing came out. Light the fuses, set them down, and they spray as many colours as there are in a dragon's breath. The tubes with thin sticks coming out of them are baton-type rockets. Put them in an empty Coke bottle and they go on. The little ones are fountains. There are 2 Roman candles and, of course, a package of firecrackers. But you better set those off tomorrow. Uncle Al cast an eye toward the noises coming from the pool. Thank you, Marty was finally able to grasp. Thank you, Uncle Al. Just keep your mum out of it. Don't tell 'em where you got 'em, Uncle Al said. A nod's as good as a wink in a blind horse, right? Right, Marty babbled, although he had no idea what nods, winks and blind horses had to do with fireworks. But are you sure you don't want them, Uncle Al? I can get more, Uncle Al said. I know a guy over in Bridgeton. He'll be doing business until it gets dark. He put a hand on Marty's head. You keep your fourth after everyone else goes to bed. Don't shoot off any noisy ones and wake them all up. Obviously, not going to be a bad idea. And for Christ's sake, don't blow your hand off, or my big sis will never speak to me again. Then Uncle Al laughed and climbed into his car and rode the engine into life. He raised his hand in a half salute to Marty, then was gone, while Marty was trying to stutter his thanks. He sat there for a moment, looking after his uncle, swallowing hard to keep from crying. Then he put the packet of fireworks into his shirt and buzzed back to the house to his room. In his mind, he was already waiting for night to come and everyone to be asleep. He is the first one in bed at night. His mother comes in and kisses him good night briskly, not looking at his stick-like legs under the sheet. You okay, Marty? Yes, Mum. She pauses as if to say something more, and then gives her head a little shake. She leaves. His sister Kate comes in. She doesn't kiss him, merely leans her head close to his neck so he can smell the chlorine in her hair, and she whispers, See, you don't always get what you want just because you're a cripple. You might be surprised what I get, he says softly, and she regards him for a moment with narrow suspicion before going out. His father comes in last and sits on the side of Marty's bed. He speaks in his booming big pal voice. Everything okay, big guy? You're off to bed early? Real early. Just feeling a little tired, Daddy. Okay. He slaps one of Marty's wasted legs with his big hand, winces unconsciously and gets up in a hurry. Sorry about the fireworks, but just wait till next year, hey? Rooty-pa-dooty. Marty smiles a small, secret smile. So then he begins waiting for the rest of the house to go to bed. It takes a long time. The TV runs on and on in the living room. The canned laugh tracks often augmented by Kate's shrill giggles. The toilet in Grandpa's bedroom goes with a bang and a flush. His mother chats on the phone, wishes someone a happy 4th, says yes, it's a shame the fireworks show have been cancelled, but she thought that, under the circumstances, everyone understood why it had to be. Yes, Marty had been disappointed. Once, near the end of her conversation, she laughs, and when she laughs, she doesn't sound a bit brusque. She hardly ever laughs around Marty. Every now and then, as 7:30 became 8 and 9, his hand creeps under his pillow to make sure the cell phone bag of fireworks is still there. Around 9:30, when the moon gets high enough to peer into his window and flood his room with silvery light, the house finally begins to wind down. The TV clicks off. Kate goes to bed, protesting that her friends all get to stay up late in summer. After she's gone, Marty's folks sit in the parlour a while longer. Their conversation only murmurs, and maybe he slept, because when he next touches the wonderful bag of fireworks, he realises that the house is totally still. The moon has become even brighter, bright enough to cast shadows. He takes the bag out along with the book of matches he found earlier. He tucks his pyjama shirt into the pyjama pants, drops both his bag and the matches onto his shirt, and prepares to get out of bed. This is Operation for Marty, but not a painful one, as people sometimes seem to think. There's no feeling of any kind in his legs, so there can be no pain. He grips his headboard off the bed, pulls himself up to a sitting position, and then shifts his legs over the edge of the bed one by one. He does this one-handed, using his other hand to hold the rail, which begins at his bed and runs all the way round the room. Once he had tried moving his legs with both hands, and somersaulted helplessly, head over heels onto the floor. The crash brought everyone running. You stupid show-off, Kate had whispered fiercely into his ear after he had been helped into his chair, a little shaken up but laughing crazily, in spite of the swelling on one temple and his split lip. You want to kill yourself, huh? And then she had run off out of the room crying. Once he's sitting on the edge of the bed, he wipes his hands on the front of his shirt to make sure they're dry and won't slip. Then he uses the rail to go hand over hand to his wheelchair. His useless scarecrow legs are much dead weight, drag along behind him. The moonlight is bright enough to cast his shadow, bright and crisp, on the floor ahead of him. His wheelchair is on the brake, and he swings it into with confident ease. He pauses for a moment, catching his breath, listening to the silence of the house. Don't shoot off any of the noisy ones tonight, Uncle Al said. And obviously, That's what he doesn't want to do. And he listens to the silence. Martin knows that was right. He will keep his fourth by himself and to himself, and no one will know. At least not until tomorrow, when they see the blackened husks of the twizzers and the fountains out in the veranda, and then it wouldn't matter. As many colours as there are on dragon's breath, Uncle Al said. But Marty supposes there's no law against a dragon breathing silently. He lets the brake off his chair and flips the power switch. The little amber eye, the one that means his battery is well charged, comes in on the dark. Marty pushes right turn, the chair rotates right. Hey, hey, when it's facing the veranda doors, he pushes forward. The chair rolls forward, humming quietly. Marty slips the latch on the double doors, pushes forward again and rolls outside. He tears open the wonderful bag of fireworks and then pauses for a moment, captivated by the summer night. The chirr of the crickets, the low fragrant breeze that barely stirs the leaves of the trees at the edge of the woods, the almost unearthly radiance of the moon. He can wait no longer. He brings out a snake, strikes a match, lights its fuse, and watches it, entranced. Silence as it sputters green-blue fire and grows, magically, writhing and spitting flame from its tail. The 4th, he thinks, his eyes alight. The 4th, happy 4th of July to me. The snake's bright flame glitters, glow, flickers, goes out. Marty lights one of the triangular twizzlers and watches it as it sprouts fire as yellow as his dad's lucky golf shirt. Before it can go out, he lights a second that shoots off light on dusky red as the roses which grow beside the picket fence around the new pool. Now a wonderful smell of spent powder fills the air, for the wind to rafter and pull slowly away. His groping hands pull on the flat packet of firecrackers next, and he's opened them before he realises that to light these would be calamity. Their jumping, snapping, machine gun roaring would wake the whole neighbourhood. Fire, flood, alarm, exertion, all of those, and one 10-year-old boy named Marty Coleslaw in the doghouse until Christmas, most likely. He pushes the black cats further up on his lap, gropes happily in the bag again, and comes out with the biggest Twizzler of all, a world-class Twizzer. If ever he saw one, it's almost as big as his closed fist. He lights it with mixed fright and delight and tosses it. Red and bright as hellfire fills the night, as it is by this shifting, feverish glow that Marty sees the bushes at the fringe of the woods below the veranda shake and part. There is a low noise, half cough, half snarl. The beast appears. It stands for a moment at the base of the lawn and seems to scent the air, and then it begins to stumble up the slope towards where Marty sits, on the slate flagstones in his wheelchair, his eyes bulging, his upper body shrinking against the canvas back of the chair. The beast is hunched over, but it is clearly walking on its 2 rear legs. Walking the way a man would. The red light of the Twizzler skates hellishly across its green eyes. It moves slowly, its wide nostrils flaring rhythmically, scenting its prey, almost surely scenting the prey's weakness. Matty can smell it, its hair, its sweat, its savagery. It grunts again, its thick upper lip, the colour of liver, wrinkles back to show its heavy tusk-like teeth. Its pelt is painted as dull silver red. It's almost reached him, its clawed hands, as unlike human hands, reaching for his throat, when the boy remembers the packet of firecrackers. Hardly aware he is going to do it, he strikes a match and touches it to the master fuse. The fuse spits a hot line of red sparks that singe the fine hair on the back of his hand, crisping them. The werewolf, momentarily off balance, draws backwards, uttering a questioning grunt that, like his hands, nearly human. Marty throws the packet of firecrackers in its face. They go off in a banging, flashing train of light and sound. The beast utters a screech roar of pain and rage. It staggers backwards, clawing at the explosions that tattoo grains of fire and burning gunpowder into its face. Marty sees one of the lamp-like green eyes whiff out as 4 crackers go off at once with a terrific thundering pow. At the side of its muzzle, now it screams, pure agony. It claws its face, bellowing as the first lights go in, and the coastal house. It turns and bounds back down the lawn toward the woods, leaving behind it only a spell of singed fur, and the first frightened and bewildered cries from the house. "What was that?" His mother's voice, not sounding a bit brusque. "Who's there, God damn it?" His father, not sounding very much like a big pal. "Marty?" Kate, her voice quivering, not sounding mean at all. "Marty, are you all right?" Grandpa McCostal sleeps through the whole thing. Marty leans back in his wheelchair as the big red Twizzler gutters its way to extinction. Its light is now the mild and lovely pink of the early sunrise. He's too shocked to weep, but his shock is not entirely a dark emotion. Although the next day his parents will bundle him off to visit his Uncle Jim and Aunt Ida over in Stowe, Vermont, where he will stay until the end of the summer vacation. The police concur. They feel that the full moon killer might try to attack Marty again and silence him. There is a deep exultation in him. It is stronger than the shock. He has looked into the terrible face of the beast and lived, and there is simple childlike joy in him as well. A quiet joy he will never be able to communicate later to anyone, not even Uncle Al, who might have understood. He feels this joy because of the fireworks have happened after all. And while his parents stewed and wondered about his psyche, and if he would have complexes from the experience, Marty also came to believe in his heart that it had been the best 4th of July he'd ever had. And I'm going to leave it there for now, guys. And when we come back, we will be on August, and we'll continue the rest of the month. It's a really interesting book. I absolutely love it. Thank you for listening, and many blessings.